Welcome to the Land Your Bets sports betting show live stream. We're going to be looking at what you guys want to look at today as soon as we get some people jumping in here. Starting this one a bit later than yesterday's stream, so we can go ahead and make sure people are able to get in and start getting some questions in. I'm pretty frustrated because I tried to get a YouTube video up that did not work out very well because YouTube was straight bugging. That is up with my final player prop picks. Last night we had projections and a couple of bets that I made on sides and totals. So if you guys want to check that out as well, make sure to subscribe to the page. Like I said, I'm going to be waiting for some people to jump in, a few more people coming in. I started later than usual today. So what we are seeing is the results of not starting the same time every day and setting expectations and all that. But we're going to move it to 4:30 p.m. Eastern each and every day moving forward like we are today so that people do have time to get in here. A lot of people were saying they don't necessarily have the ability to get in at about 3 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to push it back just a bit. But a couple of things I'm going to be looking at, including the bets that I already made. And I'm going to put these at the top of the show for you guys and just get right into that because I was trying to get that video out much earlier, about 11 a.m. on the West Coast, 2 p.m. on the East Coast was when that video was supposed to come out. And YouTube was bugging. So we didn't get to see what happened there. But just a reminder for those of you jumping in, if you have not been in here before, make sure that you let me know what you want to bet on, and I'll take a look at it with you guys and go over all that stuff. Something I did put in the projections video last night, just like to look at this off top real quick, which is that there's 9 games, a couple teams on back-to-backs. Important to know that for when guys might be sitting or getting a few less minutes. Sometimes when there's back-to-backs, coaches will let their stars get out of the game a little bit earlier if it's a blowout in either direction. And you can kind of bank on some of that stuff affecting player props for sure. But I'm gonna go ahead and just look at the bets that I already made today, the player props that I have already on the card, because like I said, the video that I tried to put up didn't come up right away. So you might not have all seen that, but this is a quick look at the back-to-backs. And this is my favorite bet of the day right now. First bet that I've already put in at a full unit for Mr. Thompson, Klay to get under the points that he's at, 20.5 here, minus 104 on FanDuel. I believe that's still a good number on FD, as that is really good. Close to even money there for us to get Klay going under 21. And it's a lot about what you see on the screen here, right? It's with and without Steph. And it's not totally fair. I want to be clear. Like if you look at Steph or Klay's numbers without Steph this season, the 30 minutes per game, that's actually supposed to be opposite. With Steph is a lot worse this year than without Steph, or a lot better, I should say. So that's why I do like Klay unders. I think you're getting a little bit of juice and steam on the over to the over, because of the fact that we want to bet overs on Klay when Steph's not in. Not the case necessarily this year. And it's a really bad matchup too when you've got him versus Dallas last 4, 7.8 points per game for Klay in the last 4. And we know that he needs to make threes, and we know he specifically needs to make catch and shoot threes, because as much as we might have used to love the way that Klay played, it's not even like he can dribble past too many people anymore, right? And even use his size to shoot over people, because he's a little bit slower at this point, which will happen when you have ACL surgeries coming out of the wazoo like he did a couple years ago. But also just like this Dallas matchup for him, even though Dallas is not great defending the 3, they have been really good defending the above the break 3. That's where Klay's going to shoot all his stuff. He's really not getting into the corners at all. And then you look at the way that they defend spot up shooters, right? And that's all Klay can do. We've seen Jay Kidd, since he's come to Dallas, at least coach this team well enough on defense to get the ball out of Klay's hands before he can just catch and pop, right? And as a result, it's going to really wane on his points there, lean heavily on his points there. So the basically what I would say for Klay is, if he's not making 6 threes in this game, I don't see him getting that. He's only shooting about 9 per game from deep with Steph. Without Steph, doesn't matter. So I'm not really worried about him getting the 21 in this game. He had Dante Exum on him as the matchup last time that they played, and he only had 3 points, 1 for 12 shooting for Klay in that game. So this is some of the stuff we like with Klay. For those of you jumping in, I'm just going through my best bets here. Hopefully you got to catch the Klay one here, already in at under 20.5 points for him. I have another YouTube video up with the 4 best bets that I'm showing you here. So if you're in the live stream, you probably don't need to check that one out, although I always appreciate it. That one got out hella late because YouTube was bugging today. I broke a few things as a result of my frustration. But here we are, so I can go over these picks with you now. I got to take Joker in this one. And by the way, I do have a couple more plays outside of these 4 that I'm showing you. And as always, for those jumping in, if you don't know what this is all about, it's all about throwing me your points. We already got Diego Pena. He knows the deal. Thoughts on Kuminga over 20.5 points. The line's been bet down from 21.5, but it's a pretty decent matchup for him, according to Courtside Pal. No, we love Courtside Pal. I'm going to get into Kuminga then for you in a little bit, Diego. Just let me finish these 4 bets real quick. You can see all this stuff for Joker. This is based on him playing on the road which means that he scores more, he shoots more, and it also means Miami gives up more and plays a little faster than they do on the road. When they're on the road this season, you see that 112 defensive rating with 107 points per game that they're allowing. When they're playing at home, 116.8 D rating, and they're giving up 113 a game in that instance. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and feel good about the Joker bet. The other thing is Joker's going to score from where exactly on the floor? Miami's vulnerable, which is not very many places, but as far as not all the way to the rim, but as inside the painted area, they're going to be the most vulnerable. That's guys who get floaters, and that's the dude who plays the most with his back to the basket in the league. This man right here, Nikola Jokic, and is the most efficient pretty much in terms of how the volume compared with how many shots he's making. Pretty much the most efficient dude in terms of scoring when his back is to the basket, and that's in part because he's just going to take those little baby hooks that are either right outside the paint, right inside the paint, but not necessarily like dunking on people, as we know. Very rare that you're going to get any of that stuff. So with Jokic able to score exactly where they're at, I did ladder him there, 30 plus points as well. Gets you plus 195 on DK. I believe it might have gone down on DraftKings. Caesars might still be hanging a plus 195 for his 30 plus points. So I'd take the ladder there. I know I just got a ton more people jumping in, so let me just let you know this was the first bet, and we'll go over all this in a little bit. But as always, definitely let me know if you have some bets you want to look at as well. For Domas here, I got to shout out my co-host on a show that I do for thelines.com with Nate Weitzer. He brought to my attention Mr. Domas Sabonis on over 2.5 turnovers in this game. And I do think that this is going to be a solid situation for him against the Lakers to keep turning the ball over. He had a really awesome game against Milwaukee last game when they just pounded them last night. And he only had 0 turnovers in that game, right? And didn't really was really, really efficient. Didn't even have to come back in the game, but he did at the end to kind of ruin some unders because I know he got a last minute bucket to give him 22 points. But more importantly, before that game last night, he had 4 in a row where it was 21 turnovers over the course of that 4 games, which gets you nicely at about 5 or so. I have maybe a turnover ladder for Domas if we have the stones for it. But look at that turnover rate, 24% turnover rate in those previous 4 as well. And LA does force more turnovers at home because they're better on defense at home. That's really what we've talked about multiple times on this show as well, which is that when they're at home, a little bit less likely that there's going to be as many big, higher scoring games, a little slower pace, a little better D. But when they're on the road, a lot worse. So the 13.6 turnovers that they're forcing at home, that's good for 10th best in the league in terms of centers and how they're playing against a player like Domas. They are forcing turnovers from centers, 11th most in the league. So this is a good situation where we know Domas is going to have the ball in his hands a ton, man. This dude has been a machine as of late in terms of assists and boards, and to a degree points. But in his last 5, we're talking about 16.8 boards and 8.6 assists. He's had 3 or more turnovers in 11 of his last 14. Like, this is something that he does. I think we're in part getting a good number because you do have this, people probably have this game going a little bit more slowly with Sac on the road. LA better at home, playing slow there. I'm not feeling nearly as much of like a 245, 250 total like we've seen from them before. But still, I think that the turnovers are right for Domas. So one more bet that I have here. If you want to take Cade points, I don't hate it, but I way prefer the rebounds and assists, as you can see. We got 12.5 RA rebounds plus assists that he needs to get for us to go over that minus 105. I love that number. You could tell it was at 11.5 for a bit. And then what ended up happening was people bet the over, including myself last night, but I still bet it this morning as well. So I've got about 1.5 units on it. If you look at the double there, we put 0.3 on that, and you can get that at plus 210. And that's really what it is for him to get like 10 assists as well, right? So I like when you see situations where a dude ladder play, let's say like we have here, if you wanted to take his assists, you get an 8.5. You want to take 10 assists. I believe it's a little bit worse than plus 210, but you throw the double in there, you never know. You get better odds at times. And that's a huge play here because we get a little bit better juice to just take and get the double. And that also means we get the chance that he gets 10 boards, which could happen as well. So we kind of double our chances at the double because you can use any stat category you want, obviously. And if you look at this matchup against Toronto, bro, like, Toronto might be the only team. Well, Toronto's worse than all these other teams we've been making fun of all season at this point. You got a couple questionable tags on Emmanuel Quickley and on Gary Trent Jr. Other than that, you got nobody playing for Toronto. RJ Barrett's out. Jakob Poeltl's out. Scotty Barnes is out. Even Chris Boucher is out. If you want to talk about a lack of depth down low for this team, Cade is going to play all around the free throw line and in. We know that for him. And he's going to continue to be really successful against a team like Toronto. Look at what he did in that last game versus Toronto at the like 4th bar down, 22 potential assists, 12 assists in that game. And that was obviously he had Bogey in that one. They still had a couple of the other dudes that are now on the Knicks, for instance, for the Pistons. But if you look at what happens, we also have Oscar Thompson out. This only helped the bet. Oscar Thompson is someone that actually took away from Cade's assists for whatever reason, and I didn't look too deeply into it. But if you look at Cade without Oscar Thompson this season, he's gone over this number like 75% of the time. When you talk about him having everybody on the floor that's going to be there for him, like Jalen Duran and Beef Stew and Jaden Ivey as well, those three dudes are really important for him to get his assists. So I took him under the assist last game. If you were following along, got the under 8.5, and he got 8 in that one. Scared us a little bit at the end, but still only came up with 8. And that was in part because he was playing Charlotte, way better at limiting assists than whatever version of this Toronto team you want to talk about right now. In terms of the most assists per game that they're allowing to point guards, last 7, last 15, last 30, however you want to break up the recent numbers for them, they're giving up the most assists to point guards. In terms of Cade's profile on Courtside Pal, which I know we talk about here a lot, Courtside Pal, something we'll go through in a minute. That's the exact profile that he has, is going to be top 3 in getting points and getting assists against his team as well. Rebounds, they've been limiting okay against his position on the season. But if you look at the last 5 games for them, they allow the most rebounds in general. And they've now moved to the bottom 10, allowing point guards to get rebounds in their last 7 as well. So also just dime me up a bit more. Oster has missed a game in there. And with the 14 potential assists in his last 5, I'm really liking what we're seeing from Cade as far as distributions going. That was a scary under that I took for him, 8.5 assists in the last one. But I think he's good for 4 to 5 boards, and I do think he's good for like 9 to 10 assists in this one. So we're going to take him to get the rebounds and assists combined, and we're also going to take the double-double for him to get a little bit extra on our money there. So just quick run through. We got Domas, we got Cade, we've got Domas, I should be clear, turnovers for Mr. Sabonis, over 2.5 for those of you who just jumped in. Also going to take Jokic, over 24.5 points. I love that number, and 30-plus points. I hope the 24.5s are still there. I don't want to be lying to you guys. Let me actually just look it up real quick to make sure I'm not lying to you, because if you do want the 25.5, I'm fine with it, but I love that I still get minus 115 for 24.5 in a matchup that, like, it's right for him to have to score. Yeah, you still get minus 114, minus 115 on FanDuel for that number. So I feel good about Mr. Jokic as well. And we're going under here for Klay. This is the under of the day for him to get under 21 points, essentially under 20.5. Not a good matchup against Dallas, who is going to be running him off the line. And then once you make Klay put the ball on the floor, yeah, I don't want to talk too much trash, my man. But Jimi Hendrix, jump in with your question, bro. I'm going to get to Diego Pena right now because he asked us about Kuminga over 20.5 points. So let me bring my screen up here and get this other thing off the screen. Get to the right one. So we're going to be looking at Jonathan Kuminga here. So first thing we got is, let me get this out of the way. My bad. Jonathan Kuminga. Let's go to the game here on props.cash. This is usually we're going to see me start at least to get a sort of a grasp on what we're looking at here. So we got Jonathan Kuminga points is what we're looking at, 20.5. I don't hate it off top of my head without looking at it too much. I do know that Dallas has been somewhat vulnerable, but let's look at how they've been specifically against power forwards. I think we can't totally rely on that, but I am going to start with Fantasy Pros, which I've told you before isn't quite as accurate as Courtside Pal, which I'll also open up just so you can see what that's like. All the links to these tools are in the description of the video, so make sure you check that out if you're looking for it. We got Courtside Pal here too, but let's look at power forwards, because the only problem with Courtside Pal, and maybe somebody can prove me wrong, because I still haven't been able to find it, is how team defenses have done in recent matchups. This is just the whole season, so it doesn't necessarily show me what's happened more recently, and sometimes I want to know that because teams change, especially after the All-Star break and trade deadline. Teams definitely move around their rosters a bit more, but we can look at the more recent numbers for this team in the last 7 against power forwards. Looking at points scored, thought they'd be worse. They are about middle of the pack there. That's going to be basically about maybe even a little bit worse than middle of the pack. So that is pretty yeah, they're not too bad against them is essentially what we're seeing here, right? Like they're going to be bottom half of the league. But yeah, right around middle of the pack, dude, like 15, 16. I'm not counting that out, but let's look at them against Jonathan Kuminga specifically, because Kuminga is not necessarily your stereotypical, like he's able to dribble a bit more than whatever a power forward is considered these days. But he's not quite as tall as you might want a traditional power forward to be. There's a little bit difference between him and the former poor power forwards of the world that we used to see, like the Chris Webbers of the world. Let's look at points real quick for him and his scoring type. Against Dallas, all right, 8th most points against where he's shooting from on the floor, and where he's scoring from rather on the floor, and where he's shooting from 13th. So that is a bit of a problem. He is a playmaker as well that seems to be able to score pretty well against them. What does that mean for his assists? Yeah, not much for assists, which we would imagine makes sense for him. But looking at the points, I do think that this is at least worth consideration just off of the fact that they are pretty bad limiting his type of scorer. I want to show you, too, what we mean when we're talking about that. So his scoring right here, he's scoring number 5. I would definitely look into that when you're on courtside pal, because this is where you're going to learn exactly what they're talking about. So if you want to know what a score 5 is on their site, it's basically someone who has a composite of various skill sets demonstrating a versatile scoring profile, which is definitely Jonathan Kuminga, right? He can go into the post and actually be stronger than dudes when he has a size advantage, but he's got and he's also got the quickness to get by guys who might be a little bit bigger than him. Yeah, he can step out and hit a mid-range all right, and a three-pointer a little bit. I mean, this adds up, right? This makes total sense. And this is also really helpful because this is the shot chart in terms of you can look at this by zone. So for when you look at where he's shooting most of his shots from, it's going to be closer to the basket and then getting those short range shots as well, not really mid range or 3-pointers. So, how is he doing in that sense against this team? Seems like they give up a decent amount of points. I do want to see if there's anybody of consideration. When you go back to props.cash, if you look at power forwards, you can see the recent numbers here on props.cash against the Dallas defense, right? Isaiah Stewart, kind of similar to Kuminga. I'd way rather have Kuminga, obviously. Caleb Martin's even faster. Siakam's a decent comp. Nobody having a ton of success here that you would consider a power forward for this squad. I mean, Kelly Olynyk's probably a center at this point without Pirtle in there for Toronto. So that's something that's a little bit inaccurate. Evan Mobley can't shoot as well. But yeah, this is a decent enough comp, right? And Kevin Durant is not a comp for Jonathan Kuminga, obviously. But not too many guys having a ton of success in the points column. When you look at Kuminga, let's look at his numbers without Steph Curry now, which we can do when we go to injuries and take Steph out of that with Kuminga. Pretty good in the last 10, right? And that's really, he's only got 5 games this season. But look at the minutes. Like, he didn't really start getting minutes on this squad until later. And once he got the minutes, now we're talking about getting the points. Last season, not quite as good. This team wasn't quite as good, to be honest, last season either, which is a big reason for why I don't even think he was able to score as much. He wasn't quite as much of a focal point. So now in the last 3 without Steph, some pretty good numbers there, 28, 20. So that's about 25 a game or so without Steph in his last 3. Let's take a quick look at just what that means exactly. And I want to show you one more thing with this before we move on. And I let you know what I'm thinking about Kuminga here. Let's look at Jonathan Kuminga. Probably just do this with and without Steph Curry this season. Not going to be as accurate because of the fact that there's so many more games played. And like I said, he didn't start getting those minutes until later in the year. So we want to consider that. But I mean, that's a pretty hefty difference in the points per game and the shots per game, getting 2.5 more shots per game. That all makes sense for Kuminga. One thing I do want to see is, like, we can look a little bit more deeply at how Kuminga scores. So let's go to the NBA stats page, go to players. And then I have 2 picks that I mentioned too that I want to look at with you guys that I haven't done yet. So Futon Bets, let me know which site you're on. I keep jumping around on sites and I'll let you know as soon as I see it. But try to give me a little hint of what you're talking about. And then as far as the turnover props for Domas, I'll get back to that comment as well, and Nick Benton. But looking real quick at how Kuminga scores, right? I want to go into play type here. And I want to look at stuff for the Dubs. So let's go. I forgot when we do play type, we can't get recent stats. We have to do the whole season. But I still think the way that he scores is going to be pretty consistent. So let's filter this to team equaling GSW. So we get the Dub stats here in terms of individual play type. Isolation, how often is he doing that? They're not really putting him in ISO too much. That's a Chris Paul thing. Let's see if we can keep this. Transition, is he getting those buckets here? The Betting Pros website. Yeah, that's in the description of the video as well. But Fantasy Pros, if you want to look at that one, fantasypros.com/, whatever, that's going to be in the description, so you can get that there. Finishing up the Kuminga stuff, I want to see, let's see, we got transition, pick and roll, ball handler. Is he the pick and roll man with Chris Paul? Not quite. He is a decent amount. That is something that you like to see. And I bet that number goes up with Chris Paul. I don't have that quick way to do that on me this second. But as far as the pick and roll man, how often is he doing that? You'd like to see him do that way more, wouldn't you? Like 3.9% compared to these dudes. I mean, I get that there's the pick and pop with Saric, and you're going to see Trayce Jackson-Davis run that as much as possible with a guy like Chris Paul at the helm of point guard. The only thing that scares me about that too is like when you got Chris Paul out there, there's going to be a slower game, man, and then that's why that total dropped for the total between Dallas and Golden State is mostly because of the fact that Chris Paul's a point guard and not Steph Curry in this game, and that's going to be what we see here. Looking at that original total for this Dallas and Warriors game, it started at 236.5. We're down 3.5 points at 233. I still like the 233, honestly, under before I would go over in this one, because like I said, everything slows down with Chris Paul. And we've seen with Chris Paul, let's go back to Jonathan Kuminga on props.cash and go without Steph Curry, but with Chris Paul, because Chris Paul has also missed a good amount of games. And I want to know what it's like when he is in that situation. Pretty good, right? That's all three of the ones that he's gone over pretty consistently. It's a pretty good bet for sure. If you're going to go with somebody in this one in terms of Jonathan Kuminga over a couple other bigs or what have you, like we don't have we do have Trayce Jackson-Davis. This is a dude I might eye as well. He's getting a ton of passes from Chris Paul. Chris Paul's getting a ton of assists off him. And like I just showed you over here, the pick and roll man, the most frequently used one is Trayce Jackson-Davis anyway. Then you talk about him playing alongside Chris Paul in that sense. If we already got props up for him, I think we can bank on him getting some minutes. What have his minutes been in these situations? In the last couple, yeah, I mean, the last two, 23, 20, 26.5. So y'all don't get turnover props in New York, huh? Damn, that's pretty annoying. I know that New York is kind of skeevy like that in some ways, but yeah, you can get turnovers on DFS. I'm not sure I can't remember if that's legal right now in New York, like Prize Picks and Underdog Fantasy, that kind of stuff. They're going to have turnovers usually as well. But we can look real quick too at the Domas pick to see where those are available according to props.cash. They're not connected to every book, but props.cash is connected to enough books that you can kind of rely on what you're seeing in terms of what they pull through. So let me show you what I mean. If we look at Domas and we go to turnovers, the books that have that are Caesars, BetMGM, and PointsBet right now. So yeah, those are not available on the more common ones like DraftKings and FanDuel, but they are available on some books. So if you get them, that's where they are right here. You can see Caesars, BetMGM, PointsBet, right? And PointsBet is not my favorite, but whatever. Moving past that. So I would say if you want to take an over for Kuminga, what are the odds on that again? Let me go back to it real quick because I don't hate it by any stretch of the imagination. At 21, but the thing is, I also usually like to play when I have a projection that's going to give him a bit, like at least 2 more points than what it is. Then I'm willing to play that over for decent odds. 20.5, you can even get a 19.5, dude. So I wonder if that dropped a smidge because MGM's still hanging at 20.5, but the 19.5 is a much better bet for sure. I would take that. You get minus 105 on FanDuel. So that's a pretty good number there. So that's where we start for you, Diego. I hope you get that in. Jimi Hendrix had a question, but then he might have dipped on us. We had another one. Someone was asking about Jamal Murray over points. He said he wants to be the best player behind Jokic. Yeah, he is the best player behind Jokic. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't know if he meant in the league or on his team, but he's definitely the second best player on his team. Let's look at Jamal Murray in this one. I already told you that I do like Jokic to have a good game. One place that I would look here, and this is what I wanted to show you a minute ago. I do one thing that can be really helpful is if you go to start in terms of finding where a weakness of a defense on a team is, right? I want to know, it's sometimes easier to look at where the weakness is on a specific team and then see the player that could best take advantage of that, right? So if we're looking at the Miami Heat here, let's start with them and let's go to play type to see which type of plays they have the most trouble with, right? So when it comes to isolation, how often does that happen against the Heat? Decent amount. Not that much. Decent enough, right? In terms of playing iso ball against the Miami Heat. How good are they in limiting it? Points per possession that they give up. They're actually not that great at limiting iso ball, right? So their one-on-one defenders are probably a bit weaker than their team defense at this point. And Bam would be a pretty good example of that because as good of a defender as Bam is, if he's given up 30, 40 pounds and like 4 inches to dudes like he will be against Jokic, that's going to be a problem for him, right? So iso ball and the amount of points that their possession that they're giving up, pretty good. So consider some isolation players on the Nuggets. Looking at transition, I'm pretty sure this team's fire at getting back on D. In terms of teams even being able to get out into transition against them, 16% of the time is good. Is going to be a top. What do we got here? Least frequent time here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're in the top 10 in how often it's not happening against them. In terms of points per possession, yeah, they're not giving up anything in terms of points per possession in transition. They're really good at getting back, and they're really good at defending you once they get back there. That's why they give up so few points in transition. So not really going to be focused on that for Denver, who doesn't really do that anyway. Pick and roll ball handler. And this is where we want to look at is this is going to be a lot more relevant to Jamal, right? Let's actually go and be able to compare this really easily by going over to player stats and looking at how often Jamal is in certain play types. So if we're talking about isolation for Jamal on offense, we need to, let me make sure I'm doing this right. Bro, I had this as offensive rookie mistake. We need to see how they do against all these things on defense. My bad, dude. All right. So real quick, looking at them on defense, let's make sure I wasn't messing that up too bad. I might have actually done this part right. Yeah. Okay. They're still going to be really good in terms of limiting ISO. So yeah, they're not. My bad. I was on offense and this is defensive. So if you're an ISO against them, you're probably not going to have that much success. I guess they do have better individual defenders that I've been giving them credit for. But yeah, you need to make sure you change it to defensive when we go to these play types so you can do exactly what I'm talking about right now. This is super important. If you do want to like find a good starting point, this can be tough to just dive in and be like, where do I start? How do I even find something that stands out to me? If you want to look at how a defense plays and where they're weakest, then play type is going to be super helpful for this stuff. They're very good against the ISO. They're going to be very good defensively against the transition as well. I believe did I get this one right at least? Yeah, they're still a top team against limiting the transition, so they're not going to be giving up a ton of points there. Plus, that's not where the Denver Nuggets try to score from. Let's look at the let's start with pick and roll ball handler, because this is where we're going to probably see that Jamal be doing that, right? So Jamal, pick and roll ball handler. Let's go to make this the Denver Nuggets only. And we can see he's doing it just as frequently as Reggie Jackson, but obviously way more possessions a game because he gets more minutes. The points per possession, he's way better than Reggie Jackson, unsurprisingly. Not 0.99 points per possession when he's in that. That's going to be really good, right? In fact, that's probably going to be pretty good compared to everybody in the league. So let's look at, I just want to look at that. And this is one of those things where I have this as a little bit easier to look at in my betting tool. That I will be getting onto this live stream. I promise. I just got to like tweak it a bit so I can show you exactly what I want to show you with this model that I have. And this is where I would just immediately just be able to like click through and see exactly what I'm already trying to find here, which is taking a second. So as far as players overall, I want to see how Jamal ranks in the league in terms of how often he's in that pick and roll ball handler mode. But you can see the frequency. And I need to do some filtering so that we can get like games played to a certain amount. We need it to be like greater than, I'd say, at least like 45. Yeah, you still got a lot from homie here, from TJ McConnell, and obviously you know that the Indy Pacers are going to be there a ton. But if we're looking for Jamal, how he compares, he's at like 36 point something percent. But it's actually, I want to see the possession. That's what I should be doing anyway. For Jamal, does he have that many games played this season? Because he's at 7, right? Yeah, 7.1. Cool. So that's still going to be, you know, a top like 90th percentile of how often he's doing it. So we know that's a lot, right? I use that to compare how often he's doing it, because just because he's doing it the most on his team doesn't mean that it's the most in the league, but it's still going to be in the top, like I said, 10 percentile of the league, 90th percentile, so that he's doing it more than almost everybody in the league, like the majority of players in the league. How are the Heat at defending the pick and roll ball handler? We look at this here. They're frequently looking at playing against the pick and roll. It looks like, actually, maybe not as often as we might have thought. How often are they playing? Yeah, okay. They're actually not getting pick and rolled too often. And that's going to be because they're really good at defending it. You can see that Bam is going to be a really good defender at coming up and stopping him there. I should have started too with Murray. I want to look at how his recent numbers were against this team as well, if we can keep it from the playoffs. If you look at head-to-head, these are all playoff games except for this one here. I believe he came out of that game early, right, where he got hurt against them last time. Yeah, he only played 14 minutes in the last one. And if you look at the finals, it's not quite the same. Let's look at Jamal Murray here in StatMuse. This is what I like to use to just get quickly into the with and without stats or recent matchup stats, that kind of stuff. So we look at Jamal Murray last 3 regular season games versus Miami. Not good. These are his last 3 regular season games, and everything that we were just looking at. Now, last year, yeah, still not good, right? And this is probably with Joker. Let's look at the game log real quick to see if Joker's in there. And Joker's in there for sure. But yeah, 14 points on 4 of 9, only 9 field goal attempts. So it really, what it tells you here is that what we're seeing in the Murray stuff when they play against a team like the Heat, We're on pick and roll ball handler defensive. How do you play against them? And the Miami Heat give up the third fewest points to the pick and roll ball handler. They are giving up probably not very many attempts, 12, third fewest, because of the fact that they play that press D, man. They're really good at that. So yeah, I think we're going to be looking at a Murray. Nah, I don't know if I'm hitting that right. 21.5 points. If anything, honestly, dude, I'm fading that. I think we can project him still to play probably the 30 something minutes that he's been playing. Let's get off of this. Let's look at the last 10 for him. And the minutes per game for him are up at about 32.5. And I think that's right. 32, 33 minutes. He's not getting run into the ground by Michael Malone. But yeah, I think the points for Murray is better as an under, predominantly because of what I'm talking about here. Not good numbers in the past. Miami is really good against the pick and roll ball handler. That's what we know that he wants to do with Joker as much as possible, is get into that. We know Joker is going to be the dude that's the pick and roll man for him. How does the pick and roll man do against this squad? Let's look real quick. We got pick and roll man. I'm going to be looking at the Denver Nuggets again. I'm just looking at Joker real quick. What? No, player equals Denny Avdia. Team equals Denver. Obviously, our man's is in it a lot. Not as frequently compared to how many minutes we get from DeAndre Jordan when he's in, because that's all he can do is pick and roll. But Jokic is a decent pick and is doing it pretty consistently. Although I will say, looking at the rest of the league, I bet there's dudes doing it way more often as far as the pick and roll man, because they do like to get him with his back to the basket. Yeah, you can see right here, the amount of possessions per game is going to be about a lot more from a lot other dudes. Even Grant Williams has more pick and roll roller, right? And so Jokic is up there, but 2.9, still not as frequently as you might think. Either way, this Heat team has proven they can really defend that pick and roll well. So I don't love Jamal Murray points there. I already told you I do like for what's his face, only the best player in the league, for Jokic to get his points in this one. This is a better matchup for him to get points, as you can see. So I'm feeling that one for him a bit more. Since we got hella more people in the stream real quick, let me just show you the other plays I already have. And then I'm going to look at LeBron right quick, because I had someone talk about that. I think it was my boy Crack Sparrow in there. Give him a big shout out yesterday because he came through with that SGA under look that we hit. Klay, I'm going under. Jokic, I'm going over, and I'm playing the 30-plus points as well as a little ladder for him with 0.3 units. Klay was points, by the way, under 20.5. Domas, if you can get turnovers, I already had some people tell me they can't get turnovers because of the state they're in. That sucks. But we do like him to go over 2.5 turnovers, as he does that very, very consistently in terms of getting 3 of them. And then my other best bet that I already put in is Cade. I love that bet right now as well for the rebounds and assists because of the fact that he's going to be able to do that against a team that does not limit them in Toronto. And there's not much to say about Toronto, man. They're not playing D anymore. They're sitting most of their dudes, and they've pretty much given up on this season. So that was a quick look at that. Let me get back to exactly what we're talking about here for the stream, which I had another question. I know we're talking about LeBron, right? Yep. All right. LeBron for the points and assists. Yeah, by the way, you're welcome, Sachi. And I would say that the under for Jamal Murray is definitely a better play than the over. So you're welcome for that too, Diego. But Crack Sparrow, you were talking about PA for the points and assists for LeBron. Also, what's up, Free Sauce? Love having you in here, bro. For the LeBron over points and assists, let me go ahead and look at that. And I do like LeBron points tonight. So I will start by saying that that was one I was going to look at anyway and get into some LeBron stuff. But I don't love to just be like, well, he does it against this team, so I think he's going to keep doing it. But there's a couple of things at play here. If you look at the last 10 for him, and if you even look at fewer than that, let's just look at here on the 23rd when he played his first game after the All-Star break. Post All-Star break, LeBron has scored 26 points at least in all but one of those games. In that Oklahoma City game, he didn't have to play in because they blew them out and were up by I think 17 points going into the fourth quarter. So LeBron only played 5 points in the fourth quarter, took 3 shots. That was the game where D'Lo passed him the ball, and then he with 4 minutes left in the game, he's like, I don't want that, and passed it right back to him because he was like, bro, this game's over. Don't be passing me the ball, making me do stuff. I'm 40 years old. So, but when we talk about post All-Star break LeBron, that's one factor here. Love that for him. The minutes for him in that time frame. Look at these minutes, bro. He even played 31 against Oklahoma, but he's on another plane now. Since the All-Star break, he came back and was like, nah, I'm going to be him now for the rest of the season. And that's been what he's been trying to do, is put this team on his back. 36 minutes a game that he's playing. The field goal attempts are at 18. So 18 for him to get 26. Look, I mean, I don't love it. I usually if we can get 20 field goal attempts for 25 points, I love that how much breathing room that gives us in terms of the dude's ability to miss shots and us still hit it. But that said, for LeBreezy, we're talking about one of the most efficient basketball players, cerebral basketball players if not the most in the history of the game. Not to start the Michael and LeBron combo, but like Michael. Anyway, moving past it for LeBron, let's look at what he's done against this squad right here, dog. 6 out of 6 against this team in terms of getting this number. Obviously, a couple close ones. And he does score a bit more at home against this team rather than on the road, even though he does have that 37 banger against them. Wait, we're in sack, right? My bad. I messed this one up. I think I might have been misspeaking. That's right. They're playing on the road. I don't know why I thought they were at home because Nate messed me up. Either way, for him on the road, everything's been good for him. That's the thing that was confusing more than anything, is that he has been really good. I thought he was better where they're playing tonight, which is at SAC. So that makes a ton of sense, and why you would consider him for the points here. If you want to look at how a player like him does on courtside pal, and LeBron is like one of those dudes, I mention this all the time, that is like courtside pal was made for LeBron James because of the fact that you can't like box this dude into one type of position, right? When we look at Fantasy Pros, which is probably top dog in terms of defense versus position, simple, just core stats, taking a look at it, what do we see? As far as this one goes, looking at LeBron, like, what do you want to put him at small forward? Why wouldn't you put him at point guard? I don't know. I mean, I guess if you want to put him at small forward or point guard, he's still going to have success against a team like SAC, who gives up a lot of points to that position, although they've been better, it looks like, against the point guards over their last 7. But either way, LeBron loves playing this team, dude. It's like they're still, maybe this is just inference here, I don't know for sure, but there could be a little bit of little bro going on, right? Like Shaq used to call this team the Sacramento Queens that one time famously in the playoffs. And I would imagine that like the best player in the Los Angeles Lakers is going to want to sun the player, the team out there in Sacramento, no matter how good they are. And they're pretty good. Plus, I believe these two teams are still battling for playoff position, right? If you look at the standings here in the West, what are we at? 8 and 9, 9 and 10 for these teams right now. 7 for the Kings and 9 for the Lakers. But yeah, we're talking about a 2-game difference. So they're directly playing against each other for those to try to avoid the play-in and catch the Suns team as well. But pretty tight race over here when you look at 5 through basically 10, if you will. 5 games back for the Dubs. I don't think they're catching the Suns. And it's only 3 games back of the Suns. So either way, let's finish up the LeBron stuff, because you were talking about points and assists. So I want to make sure I get that there for you. So points against a squad like the Kangs. As far as scoring goes, this dude defies everything. Why am I even looking at this? His shooting profile is second best. His scoring profile is going to be a lot worse. And the difference being, like, I want to bring you back up here, because if you are using Courtside Pal, the link is in the description if you haven't used it yet. This is something I would look at when you go in here, is like, what do all these numbers and profiles mean? So when we go into shooting, the shooting profile is multifaceted. It's like a shooter is going to be someone who, not a shooter. What they mean by shooter is, where is he actually shooting from? The difference between that is, you can see what the whole thing here is like, where are you shooting from? You shoot from high velocity drives. You finish with using your athleticism. That describes LeBron. You have the coupled with a tendency for the mid range. He does do that a lot this season. And they have a willingness to shoot behind the arc, but that's not exactly where they're most comfortable, right? And he does prefer the dribble in terms of the 3-pointers for LeBron. But the difference between that and scoring is going to be, switch player type here, is that this is really like where they score from on the floor versus where they shoot from, and where they score more predominantly, because he can take shots from other parts of the floor, but where is he actually scoring from? How is he scoring? And if you look at that, this is going to be a little bit more relevant to like play type, because he excels in the post using his footwork. It's going to be relevant to how far from the basket he's scoring, right? Close to the basket shots, all that. He does have a strong back to the basket game that definitely describes LeBron as well. And that is something that, in terms of scoring, maybe they've had a bit more success defending down low for this Kings team. And if you look at power forwards and how they score against the Kings, well, this is last 7 too, but in the last 7, pretty good, middle of the pack on the season defending power forwards, because like LeBron could be considered any of these things, dude. Not very good. They're just not very good on defense, man. That's really what it comes down to. So I don't know that we need to go too crazy with this. Let's take one quick look at how LeBron scores and where Sacramento's most vulnerable on D, right? So if we look at teams, let's just start with pick and roll. Our team's pick and rolling. Is LeBron even pick and rolling? That's not where I want to start. Let's start with drives. Oh, I can't do tracking defensive. How annoying is that? We're gonna get there though. Like, this is tracking player data and then just summarizing it for a team. So that's a big reason for why we can't look at we can't split this stuff up. We can't look at it on defense. We don't have like good tracking defensive data yet, but we have really good offensive tracking data. So Let me go back and simplify this, though. What I want to look at is how do they defend against certain play types and what is LeBron doing the most? How about isolation? Just starting with that. And let's make sure we change this to defensive so I don't make the stupid mistakes I made last time. Frequency for in terms of isolation plays against the Sac Kings, they are seeing ISO plays about middle of the pack. Not very helpful. How about the amount of possessions? Because they play a ton of fast-paced games. So yeah, they're still getting a lot of possessions. The points, the frequency percentage is obviously a percentage of the other team's offensive plays. How often are they running an isolation play on offense? How often compared to how many actual possessions in the game? The Kings play super fast, so they are going to be giving up a bit more possessions, even though their frequency is a bit lower because they play more possessions. As far as the points per possession, look at that. Pretty good. Go Kings against ISO ball. How often is LeBron in the ISO? Let's look at that real quick and filter this to Team LA. LAL. So now we're looking at the players on the Lakers and how often they're running ISO ball. So I got to do it all over again. Team LA. LeBron James. Wow. Loves that ISO. Doesn't really matter. Our boy's still going to be able to score them. I bet transition is going to be big for him as well. I think he's still going in transition a lot, right? And we don't. The Kings do not get back, by the way, if you're wondering about that. So that's going to be huge. LeBron is the dude pretty much the most in transition. Oh, not even. This team's just getting out into transition a ton. How often are they doing that? I actually want to see that real quick. In terms of transition numbers, we're going to go to teams. We're going to go to teams, play type. We're going to go to transition, offensive, frequency with which they're in transition. Yeah, look at that. I mean, both these teams are in transition a ton. So that's why, how do the Kings defend transition? Probably not great, right? Points per possession. Yeah, the fifth most, which means they're going to be giving up a ton of points because they have so many possessions in general. Did I pass them? Oh, maybe not the most points in transition. Not bad. Wait, really? How did this happen? Defensively, they're frequently. This is defensive. Oh, wow. They're not in transition very often. It's on defense. So they're not getting put into transition, but they're still giving up a ton of points per possession in transition. So if LeBron's going to be in transition a ton, he's going to get his boards there. If we're talking about how they defend, what plays are we on here? Let's finish this up with I'm double downing. Teams, play type, isolation. Let's move into well, let's see what else LeBron's doing real quick. As far as transition, he's in that a ton. Is he the ball handler in the pick and roll? Let's look at LA and who's doing that for them. No, it's a bunch more other dudes, right? Is he the roll man? Probably not. LeBron ain't gonna be the roll man for nobody. Let's look real quick at the Lakers roll man stuff for him. Is he doing that a bunch? Not really, dude. Not really. And they really don't run that much pick and roll, right? In general, if with the frequency where it's at, there's teams that play a lot more pick and roll than this team. And yeah, LeBron's not really playing in that pick and roll, so we don't need to worry about that too much for them. As far as the post up goes, he does do that, right? So let's look at the post up. That was one more thing I want to look at for LeBron, see if that's another place we can find it. I think in transition is enough for me to love the LeBron points, him just getting those transition points against the Kings here. Let's filter this back to the Lakers so we can see LeBron and how often he is posting up. Obviously, AD is going to be the most. He's still doing it a decent amount. AD is really good at it. Let's see what do we say about the post up for defensive for the Kings? How often is that happening to them? Why are people not posting up Domas? His alligator arms. He can't be blocking people. There's a reason he doesn't get blocks. Is my arms are as long as him, and I'm 5'10". 5'11" on a good day, but don't tell anybody that. Either way, yeah, I mean, they're not getting hit at all, but how are they defending it? Not good either. AD is going to get his, but for LeBron, like, look, bro, what are the assists at for him? 13 or 12 in the last two against this squad. Like, yeah, I'm taking the points. I hit that. Spoiler alert there. I just think he's going to keep trying to score. But the points and assists, he's been comfortably over against this team, dating all the way back to last season. They play a ton, right? This includes 3 games this season that he's gone over this number, even early on in the season when they were a little bit of a different team too. So, yeah, I think LeBron, Crack Sparrow, to your point, is a good bet here. I'm going to put him on the card as well. That was someone I was going to look at with you guys. We just did because Crack Sparrow asked for it anyway. But I'm going over for LeBreezy on points. If you want to take points and assists, that's good too. Hell yeah, Free Sauce likes it too. That's good. Yeah, we're good on that, Free Sauce. I'm with it. Of course, Crack Sparrow. I appreciate you being in here, bro. That was a great look yesterday from the SGA, and I keep gushing about it, and so proud to have you in here. All right, let's move on to one more dude I wanted to look at. I did want to look at some stuff in the Chicago and Indy game. And by the way, for those of you who are new in here, if you don't know, like, come at me with whatever you got. If you have some questions about players, I want to make sure you know how it is that I'm looking at these things, so you can also do it for yourself, right? Like teach a man to fish and that kind of thing. So what I'm looking at here is the Chicago and Indy game, because I think what we can look at here is a couple of things. I don't know exactly how the pace is going to go. I just don't know what to do with this Indy defense, or excuse me, Indy pace and even Chicago pace. Like, it's mad confusing, right? Let me look at real quick. Chicago Bulls. How do I have to phrase this? I have to phrase it a specific way. Game log pace last 50. Let's just do 10 games for a minute. All right, cool. You just have to throw the right words in there on StatMuse. This one is StatMuse for everybody who doesn't know. I feel like this one's become hella popular, so a lot of people do know what StatMuse is at this point. But like, what's awesome about StatMuse is just the ability to just scrape everything, man. Like, the GOAT scrapers is what their name should be, because they can just pull info from all over the place to get you what you need based on keywords. There's truly the Google of sports stats, but you do need a subscription at this point to keep it going. In terms of the amount of searches you want to make, if you're not signed in, they will cap the amount of searches you make. So something to consider. But for me, I believe it was like, dude, it was a really cheap subscription. It was worth it. Also got to make those tax breaks somehow. So we got, ooh, I see you over there, Free Sauce. I was looking at Paolo assist too, bro. We can talk about that in a second. I got screwed last time I tried to play somebody under assist versus this Nets team, because you look at the Nets and they don't give up a ton of assists. I tried to take Micic under assist and he made me look silly in that one. In fact, that was the only game that Micic went over assists since he's been on this team. How insane is that? He goes over under every game except for the one time I take an under because he happens to get 8 assists against a good team like the Nets. I'm rambling, my bad. All right, so what I wanted to look at here for Chicago was the way they played. Like, what do I do with this, right? Like, if you look at these pace numbers, we're in order here. 94 against the Mavs. The Mavs play so fast. The Clips, they'll play however you want to play, honestly. The Clippers are like, we'll play fast or slow. We really don't give a shit. And then the Dubs, they played 103. The Dubs were trying to play fast, but against Utah, they played 94, right? And then, okay, so they are playing pretty slow, but that was what was confusing me. Let me look at the Pacers, though, because I think they're on the same page of just like this, like, bipolar ass pace stuff here. And we don't really have a feel for it. I mean, when you play in the span of 10 games, they played 4 games at 101 or better. And they played 4 games at slower than 99. This is more what I'm talking about, is like, how do I predict a pace for a team that doesn't ever play at the same consistent pace? What I can rely on for this Indiana team is going to how bad they are on defense, bro. So let's start there, where we're looking at the play types that they are bad at. We know that they're bad on defense against the ISO, because we found that out yesterday. And it was a huge reason why we took that SGA under assists, was because they don't blitz you on defense and they don't double team you, which is exactly what you should do against Shai Gilgeous. Although obviously it worked for them yesterday because they won that game against OKC. Could not believe that. But if you look at the frequency with which they're in the isolation on defense, where they're put in that position, third most, that's equal to the second most possessions because they play so fast. And the points per possession, they give up the most, and they give up the most points, and blah, 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 blah. They're terrible. The worst, the best effective field goal percentage, they're terrible against anybody that wants to play in the ISO. That's huge for a team like Chicago, who you know is going to have dudes in the ISO, right? Let's look at the ISO ball, let's look at who plays the most in ISO for this Bulls team, because this is now just like who's going to have the ball and score. And if you look at the dudes that are going to have the highest points props on the Bulls here, you know it's going to be Vooch, you know it's going to be our boy DDR, and you know Kobe White's up there too. DeMar DeRozan's all the way up at 24.5 now. I don't think anybody's hanging a 20. Yeah, okay, BetMGM's still hanging a 23 for minus 140, which I am very uninterested in. But as far as like the dudes that are going to be getting the shots up, it's going to be those 3 dudes, right? Now, I'm going to guess without a doubt that DeRozan is the dude that's playing the most in ISO for this team, right? Like, it's just sometimes it's just give it to DeMar and go, right? The other day we were saying DeMar, I like it. DeMar, I hear it. DeLess, I like it. DeMar, I hear it. DeMar, I like it at this point, which is the amount that he's playing in ISO. Look at how efficient he is, dude. 1.13. That's got to be amongst the top in the league for efficiency, no? Like points per possession. Yeah, well, I hate that I have to filter out like how often you're doing it. Possessions. Let's do, you got to do this at least one time a game, right? Is greater than or equal to 1. This is where math comes into play, people. You got to know your signs here. You see that little line under there? All right, play possessions. If we're talking about points per possession with at least 1.2, 1.12 is still going to be in the top 11, top 15, right? So he's doing it hella frequently. Wow, look at that for Boston. You want to talk about why they have issues? Maybe Jason Tatum should not be forced to play in ISO as much and should choose to play some more team ball. But let's move past that. I'm not even blaming Joe Mazzulla for that one. As far as the points per game off of the ISO, where are we at with DeMar? Yeah, I mean, I don't even need to look at the Bulls. I can just look at the whole league and go, yeah, this dude is clearly going to be one of the better ISO players in the league. Just check one for DeMar. Where else is this team terrible? Probably transition, although I can't confirm that. Defensive transition for Indy. I actually don't think they get put into, teams don't necessarily run on them that much because they often are like, yo, if we get into a track meet with Indy, we're in trouble, right? But they are pretty efficient defending it, it looks like. Well, they're middle of the pack in terms of efficiency. But as far as the amount of points they're giving up every game from the transition, kind of good. Honestly, this doesn't matter for the Bulls. The Bulls don't play in transition. You're definitely going to be able to see that really easily. If you look at offensive transition for the Bulls, they do not do it, right? Dead last. So I don't care about transition. DeMar's not going to transition. Now I'm just trying to justify this DeMar bet, right? And my guy Brian Andrews says DeRozan easy. I think you're totally right, dude. So I'm just going to finish up by saying what else we think here. Where else does DeMar play? Well, let's look at where they're worst first, and then let's just DeMar's going to be taking the most shots for this team, right? All that stuff. Let's look at him real quick in terms of what those recent numbers have been. Props.cash, not free. It's the only reason I don't use it all the time. But dude, bro, all good. Free Sauce wants to know about Anfernee Simons. We're gonna get into that in one sec. That'll be my last player because I think DeMar's gonna be a good over here. Even at 24.5, honestly, like who thinks he gets 30? I don't know. But against the Pacers, he hasn't been that good against the Pacers. This season, we're at 21-20. I still think he's probably the dude if you're talking about who's going to get the points in this game. But let's look at where else we got some bad defense coming from this Pacers team. Is he the pick and roll ball handler? Maybe a little mini narrative. The Toronto boys positive each other, DeRozan and Siakam. I like it, Brian. I like it. I do want to shout out one of my guys, Ray Agranzone. He's a good friend, and he's got a site called that he's working on. I'm probably too early to be publicizing it, but it's called revengestats.com. And honestly, that's fire. Like, we're doing this for fun, and I think it's super fun to find those little like quibbles. Like, let's be honest, dude. Like, for most of the dudes that are in here who don't necessarily like soap operas or like don't watch like Basketball Wives of the NBA or whatever, the NBA is your soap opera, dude. Like, I love the pettiness. I love all that. I don't know if Siakam and Pascal don't necessarily like each other. I'm sure they're still cool. They're both nice dudes. But maybe they don't. Maybe they get into it. That would be sick. Let's see what happens. I'm not banking on it. What's good, J-Net? Good to have you in here, bro. All right, finishing this up with DeMar. I do want to see, I keep getting distracted. You can tell my ADD is always going to be off the chain. Defensively for the pick and roll ball handler, how do they do there? Do they get put in pick and roll a lot, Indy? Doesn't look like it. Damn. I always miss the I. It's just like I never see it right away. Come on. See, why is that so hard? Like, why does my eyes just skip over it? They do get put in that a lot. They get the pick and roll is something that happens pretty frequently for them. Possessions a game, fourth most. Points per possession. Look who gives up the most points per possession, which is probably be the most points per game. Yep. 2 opposing ball handlers in the pick and roll. All right. Does DeMar do that? Of course DeMar does that, right? DeMar does everything. Pick and roll ball handler, offensive. We got to limit this to just Chicago real quick. Frequency, hella, it just says hella right there. And now we're talking about without Zach LaVine, who was the dude that ate into that the most, right? In terms of the frequency with which he is the pick and roll ball handler. So now this has just been going off the roof. Is there a way that I still can't do recency stuff, NBA is going to figure it out. I'm sure of it. My bad. I backed out real quick. So for DeMar, he's super efficient. Let's look at the whole league. In terms of pick and roll ball handler, how often is he doing this compared to the rest of the league? Oh yeah, with like a ton of frequency. I think possessions are more important here. What did we say he was at? Oh, he's at 7 in terms of the pick and roll ball handler. So 7.3, still going to be in the top 20 in the league. Going to be getting God damn, Luca, you're a freaking monster. 12.2 points per game as the picker. I mean, that's all they do. So that's why that is. But he's a freaking computer, man. It's crazy. Look at DeMar. He's still at 7.7. Still going to be really good compared to the rest of the league. So he's not just the best pick and roll ball handler on his team. He's the best pick and roll one of the best pick and roll ball handlers in the league in terms of getting those points. So I think we've got a good case for DeMar. Obviously, what we don't like is the way that he's got guarded. Let's look at one more thing. I want to know who guarded DeMar in his games against the Pacers this year. So to find that out, I'm going to go to the team stat page for it doesn't matter, Indy or Chicago, because I just want to go to the box score and find it that way, right? So I'm going to go to Indy's page. I'm going to go to advanced box scores. And I'm going to find their games against Chicago by going to all teams that they play and changing it to Chicago, getting that. All right, let's look at these two games real quick. We're going to go to the box score and look at these matchups. This was a game that was actually a little bit of a beatdown, it looks like, for the Pacers. How did the summary of that game go? I want to see if this one was kind of over. What am I doing? Where is the... Thank you, Jesus. So Indy was up by 11 at the half. No, this is a pretty close game until the end. So, like, there's no reason that DeMar shouldn't have been playing minutes as well in this one. We look at DeMar. He was 7 of 19 with 21 points. I mean, it's a lot. He even got to the free throw line 8 times. I suppose 36.8% is not a good percentage. So he was just missing a lot that game more than anything. But let's look at the matchups real quick. I want to know who was on DeMar. What if it was Bruce Brown? And Bruce Brown's not around anymore. What if it was like Buddy Hield? Buddy Hield's not around anymore. So we're putting DeMar here in the offensive player. If you have questions about what I'm doing here, just hop in the comments and let me know to slow down a little bit for you. But you look at who guarded DeMar last game, Aaron Nesmith. And Aaron Nesmith's going to be here once again. Yeah, I'm not sure. Appreciate it, Charles Tucker. Appreciate that. DeMar, Aaron Nesmith guarding him. Yeah, I don't love it. I mean, Buddy did guard him second most on the team, and he was pretty good against Buddy for real, like 4 points in 3 minutes, only 1 for 2. But yeah, he just had a bad shooting night, bro. If he makes one more of those threes, he's right at 24. So I can understand that. He took 2 threes. That makes sense. But like, I'm assuming that this team is also really bad in the mid range. I mean, if we're talking about volume, this is what we're looking for, right? Like, and this is where I would say, like, once again, a reminder I try to give everybody every time we talk about this. The books know that we love recent stats. They know that. So they're going to make it more all the time, right? If you want to look at what DeMar's recent props have been, it hasn't been quite as high as 24.5, I'm pretty sure. This is one more tool I'll show you real quick before we get off DeMar, because I got a couple of people asking me about Jeremy Grant. We're going to get to that. Looking at Bam, under 10.5 boards against the Nuggets. John Mitchell, we'll get to that in 1 second as well. And then, but first I free saw some Anfernee Simons threes. Oh, we got 3.5 is plus 112 on FanDuel free sauce. He's always at 4.5. Who's back in the game? Oh, because Jeremy Grant's for sure playing. Sometimes when Jeremy Grant's not in, you get some really high Anfernee Simons props. When it's like Anfernee Simons and the G League boys, then it turns into Anfernee Simons show for sure. But we're looking at DeMar real quick. This is a really helpful tool. Link in the description of the videos, which is Betting Pros, and this way you can look at recent prop lines for good players. So if we're on points for DeMar, what's his recent props been? See that? I knew it. I knew it was 24. I always look for DeMar. He's like a favorite of the show, and I knew they bumped this bitch up 1 more point. Now, it was up for Dallas, and that was very disappointing. But I suppose the books do know as well that Indy is doo-doo when it comes to guarding his exact player type. So it was down a lot at times. As soon as like Zach LaVine went out from right here to right here, Toronto, and then now they play Memphis without Zach LaVine, and so it's up to 23.5. So it makes sense. 22.5 is such a wonderful prop for DeMar to go over. We love taking that. 24.5 is going to be high, bro, because he's going to take 19 to 20 shots, but if he has a bad shooting night, then we're in trouble. I do want to show you one more thing. I lied to you, because if I look at opponent shooting, I do know that this Indy team has to be bad in terms of defending the mid-range. Let's look at the last, let's say, 10 games for this team, since they've been like the real iteration of themselves for Indy. I'm going to look at the mid-range field goal attempts against. They're giving up 1, 2, 3, the 5th most, giving up the, what's that, like 7th most made. So it's going to be a pretty good field goal percentage, not incredible, but they are giving up a ton of attempts from there. And if you're going to give up that many attempts to a dude that is more than willing to take those mid-range, he's the mid-range god, right? That's what we're talking about with DeMar. Then yeah, you're gonna feel good about him getting over, because the volume is what we look at. Fucking dry mouth, dog. All right. I owe you Anfernee Simons right quick. Let's look at Anfernee Simons. And also, if you guys have questions and you have thoughts about why you like this bet, throw it in there too. Give me a starting point. Like, I'm happy to take that. But for what's his name? We're looking at Anfernee Simons. Let me just show you if I can find that real quick, because Anfernee Simons, like I'm telling you, he's had some of these over 3.5 or over 4.5 threes made prop lines, like rather consistently, dude. But this is nice here. If you can still get that plus money, okay, he's at 3.5. The 4.5s are more random. That's fair. But if you're getting plus money for that, I feel that the under has hit pretty consistently for him. At least it was against Houston, really good 3-point defensive team, and Boston, also good from defending the 3. So that is something there to consider. But let's put him into into our courtside pal real quick and look at shooting, and then look at. I also want to start with. Who are they playing at? It's a duty game, right? Atlanta, right? Portland, Atlanta. Golly, God bless you if you're watching that. Point guard for Anfernee Simons. You could call him a shooting guard. So we'll look at his courtside pal stuff here in a second. Blazers, I just talking about Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta's just, we know they're going to be giving up threes. They're going to be giving up everything. They have had a much different looking team in the last 7. Where are they at there? Oh, they're still terrible. They're even worse, like 4.08 threes given up to point guards. I think you consider him a point guard. Let's put him in. The thing is, when Anfernee Simons is out there with like Malcolm Brogdon, he's not a point guard. But when he's out there even with Scoot, he's the shooting guard when Scoot's out there. But I don't think Scoot's playing. Let me make sure I'm not lying to y'all. In terms of the injury report, let's make sure that we have that most up to date. And feel free to jump in and let me know if I missed something with the injury report, because this shit changes on the minutely, right? What the hell am I looking? Oh, yeah, they're all the way down here because they're playing in Portland. The Hawks, we know hella people are out for them. Bogey being in, good for the points, so that hopefully we can at least get points in this game. Yeah, Malcolm's out, and Shaedon Sharpe is out. Is Scoot still out? Scoot's not on here, so Scoot might be playing. That actually would only make me like threes more, wouldn't it? Like, let's see what Anfernee Simons is like with Scoot real quick. Going to this Portland game. So yeah, Scoot's got props up. So Scoot's playing, but Anfernee Simons, I'm looking at threes made. He hit 5 against Atlanta last time. I mean, bro, you can hit 5 against Atlanta all the time. He has gone over this consistently. 6 of his last 10, 4 of the last 5 as well. But let me put Scoot in here because I'm not sure when Scoot got back from being hurt. So with Scoot, still pretty good. Obviously the 2 without Scoot as of late, but those are over the course of a couple weeks. 4 is a good number for him to hit for real. And we do know Atlanta's 3-point defense is absolutely dog shit. Let's look at shooting and just points real quick do we have Anfernee in there? Yeah. Anfernee Simons. Whoops, my bad. Let's go to points down here. Anfernee Simons score. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's still going to give up points to everybody, dude. So it doesn't really matter. We don't have threes exactly on here. But let me also just real quick look at how recent point guards. It's such a stupid term. Who's a point guard nowadays? Honestly, CJ hit 4. Damn. Okay. CJ hit 4. Garland hit 3. McBride hit 3. Schroeder hit 3. Schroeder hit 5. Good Lord. IQ is definitely going to be a lot more in the vein of this is going to be your player archetype that is exactly like Anfernee Simons. So I dig that. I think that's a good call. Honestly, like I like the Simons over. If you get that good a juice, bro, I love that for you, free sauce. So yeah, I would hit that shit. If you get it for that plus money still. Did it say that he still has plus money for those over here? This might not be. Oh, bro, 1 plus 110 still. So you still get that plus money. FanDuel is slow. Yeah, go ahead and grab that, bro. Can you put some down for me? I'll Venmo you. All right, no, we'll move on. Jeremy Grant's not a bad bet. I forgot to tell you about that one, Diego Bena, but I did want to look at a couple other things real quick because I had people coming in ask me about that as well. Let me look at the Bam rebounds for you, John Mitchell, because I'm actually super intrigued in that. And then I am going to look at Jeremy Grant real quick, and we're going to dip here in just a minute. I'm getting hit up. Call you back. Looking at the rebounds for Bam Bam. Also, I want to turn some music back on. It got real quiet in here. You know, anything for the music, but all right, we got a look at Bam's board. I'm already on him. No. Is Bam now questionable? What is happening? Why would I not have Bam out of bio props? Someone tell me if I'm tripping here. Okay. Let me go to Twitter right quick. because you know we have the noties on for underdog. Did we get some news about Bam? We don't even have any Bam news. Where is this coming from? He's not even on the questionable list. Did someone come on? I'm missing something because Bam doesn't have props up, and that makes no sense. But let me know. Did you see Bam prop somewhere? Let me know about that, and I'll come back to it. We got to look real quick at Diego wanted to talk about Jay Grant, and with the people out that we have out, especially Jalen Johnson, which I know was something that you brought up. I do think that's a smart play off bat. If somebody can explain to me why Bam Adebayo doesn't have props up as well, that would be wonderful, because he's out. J-Neck, is he out? Hit me back and let me know. What? No. Actually, honestly, I don't know what that does. I do. Crack Sparrow's got lines for Bam. He's got props on better. They just must be down for the main books for a minute. And maybe they're the ones that are slow, though. Maybe take an under. Well, he's got to play a minute for that to happen. Doesn't say out. All right. Keep me posted, because I'm not seeing his props up. Let me just go directly to DraftKings, for instance, and just look at that real quick and make sure I'm not missing it entirely. Bam, don't be having props up. Don't you love when they just be like, yo, do you want to bet on Bam first basket, but we're not going to give you another prop of his? He's got boards up. So what is the points based on? There's nobody even. All right. Something was tripping, because he's at 19.5 now. All right. He's back. Whatever. Bam, 10.5 boards. Over is 10.5. So you're talking about an under, though, because it's juiced way down. Let's try a little refresh on props.cash for a minute. Close out some of these tabs. All right. And looking at Bam once again, because now he's going to show up, and I wanted to thank you, Lord in heaven. That's so frustrating. 9.5 boards now. You take that under, you get good juice. You take 10.5 under, you get bad juice. So it looks like FanDuel is already the first book to drop him from 10.5 to 9.5. Everybody else has it. Thank you, Brian Andrews. That's what I'm talking about. Providing people helping people, which is what the hell is going on? Jimmy is sick all of a sudden. Whatever that's about. Wait, so do we get ahead of Terry? Because I really wanted to take Scary Terry over 15.5 points. That's my next thought. Oh, look at that. Jimmy's the culprit. It's clearly Jimmy, because Terry Rozier was at 15.5. Look, there's still some books. If you get a 15.5 for Terry Rozier, I'm saying blindly fucking hit it right now. I'm good on that. Terry Rozier was already maybe the second option on this team. And now you got Jimmy out, and he might be the first option on offense on this. Well, he is the first. I mean, Bam's going to have play point center. But now we talk about Bam assists in this one. Oh, okay. With it, let's see what Bam is with. Okay, we're cooking with gas now, baby. We got this is the best thing that could ever freaking happen, is that players are out, or a player that wasn't out comes back in, because players in the NBA can impact and change everything about a game. There's 5 dudes on the court for one team. 10 dudes total, right? So you can change up what the whole course of a game by just being the guy who comes in and didn't play or did play. So I love when dudes don't play. Now we have something to anchor this against, right? All right. So we got hell yeah, Crack Sparrow. That's what I'm talking about. If we're riding on this one, I'm gonna have to send a text to get some bets down. You didn't hear that live on stream. Let me look at Bam Adebayo, as Kendrick Perkins calls him. Stats this season with and without Jimmy Butler, and I have to spell the word with correctly. $1.2 assists more per season. I think we got to hit Bam assists. Does he still have plus money? Are they still hanging this at dog? This is the problem with doing a live stream. I need to get these bets down. All right, let's wrap this up, because I got to get these bets down. But this is a good play now. This, as soon as you see somebody out like that, if we do like him down, if we do think Jimmy's actually going to be out in this one, and all the books do at this point, because we're probably going to see his stuff stripped from here. Yeah, we still have Jimmy Butler props, but we might see those stripped. So now we're talking about assists for Bam. We're talking about points for Terry. How many games does Scary Terry have without Homie this year? Let's do Terry Rozier. He's played 17 games with this team. I know that because I was looking heavily at that. Don't hold me to that, Dave. Guarantee Rozier. There's no guarantee in sports betting. Last 17 games. So he's only played one without Jimmy in that game. It was still early on, so I'm not really banking on that. Because yeah, he's had 16 games with Miami without Jimmy, with Jimmy rather. So it's really not about that. For me with Terry, it was a lot more about without Tyler Hero, and let's just say with Heat, so that we guarantee it's the games that, right? So yeah, so in 8 games without the Heat, with them, let me just do it this way. Stats with Heat this season with and without Tyler Hero. It's still not giving it to us. Give me a second. But either way, you can see that he averages 18 points a game without Tyler Hero in there. He's also got the 6 assists himself. But yeah, I think we bank on this, dude. So if you got to take Scary Terry at 16.5, how does that affect your odds? You get him at plus money on FanDuel. That's only 16.5 right now. So if you can get him at 15.5 for damn near even money, that's way better than needing the full point for slightly better juice. It's not that much better from, plus 102 to minus 109. Like, I get it. It's better. And look, I don't want to poo-poo like 10 cents or whatever per dollar that you spend. But I will say that, like, I love the 15.5. So it's Scary Terry's liked playing against this team, man. And if you look at him with and without Tyler Hero, give me the stats with and without Tyler. Let's just do, okay, without Tyler, we know what it is. Stats with Heat. Let's just do stats with Tyler Hero. That's probably me. Stats it's me. With and without Tyler Hero last 17 games. I don't know why I'm complicating this. All right, look at that. That's what I'm concerned with, is I want you to see the comparison. 9 games with him, with Hero, who's out in this one as well. That's what this bet was originally predicated upon. There's really not much other than that in terms of where Terry is scoring from to go, the Denver Nuggets are weak here. The Denver Nuggets have slid into the top 10 in defensive rating on the season in the course of their last week of the season. So their team that is rounding into form defensively, and I don't love fading them. But now if we do have Jimmy out, this is where we go, all right, I know the question was about Bam rebounds, but I got real excited about Bam assists because of the way that he plays without Jimmy in there, right? And so if we got Bam and we look at his assists one more time, let's look at his assists without Jay Butler. Look at that green, right? There you go. There we go. Yo, what up, Mark Nevin from Australia? Appreciate you, bro. I was just in New Zealand. Not sure if that's, I don't want to be racist about it. I know you guys are different people, but very lovely part of the world. Let me put it that way. Daryl, what's up, man? I appreciate that. You want to know about quickly. Let me just finish my point here. Assist for Bam out of Bayou. And I do like those points for Scary Terry. That's where we're at in the way that this Denver game is shaping up. I don't know. I also like points. Like, what do we, one more thing I want to look at. Jimmy, let's do Heat pace with and without Jimmy Butler this season. Without pace, without him, they go faster. They score 1 more point per game. Heat defensive rating with and without Jay Butler. Yeah, I mean, that's enough of a sample size for me to go, like, they get another possession per game without him because of how much faster they play. And then with him, they have a worse defensive rating. Interesting. Why is that? Well, they also have to play faster. Let's do Heat opponent points per game with and without Jay Butler. Opponent points per game without him, they're better on defense. Whatever. Whatever. I sometimes just gonna poo-poo stuff if I don't like the stat, obviously. But either way, yeah, the idea for this team playing fast without him isn't really being supported by anything I'm seeing here. I just know that they're going to be a little bit faster in how they play, open things up a little bit more. Jimmy's the dude who really does slow things down in the half court for them. So let me get a couple of quick things before we dip, because I got other things going on. I'm sure you guys do too. I want to make sure I don't miss anything, but I do love these plays that we just put up. J-Neck, you asked me about Isaiah Stewart. I gotta definitely answer you there. The matchup is good, and the last few times he played them, he only got 20 minutes. Now he's getting consistent 30 plus. All right, cool. So for beef stew, as long as he doesn't try to fight anybody and kill him. Wait, now Jimmy's ruled in, we're saying. Is that what you're saying, Brian Andrews? We're all over the place, bro. Does the 3.5 assists still work? I don't know. It's not quite the same. Let's see what it is without him. This NBA, man, cannot lie on it. Yeah, see, the assists are not nearly as good with Jimmy Butler. And damn. Well, maybe it's a good thing I didn't get the opportunity to hit that yet. All right, let me look at beef stew real quick and dip out. I know I got sidetracked from the Jeremy Grant stuff too. I'll spend a little bit of time on that. I want to look at Isaiah Stewart real quick. We're talking about, and I know you asked me about Quickly. Is Quickly playing for Toronto? I don't know if Quickly is in. His assist could work. I'm already hitting Cade assists, Daryl Bethel, just so you know. That's why that's what I'm on right now. I showed some Cade stuff earlier, which I'll just show real quick again because I do like Cade in this game. With his assists and rebounds. The points maybe not as much, but because they're really, really high. But I also do like Cade over 12.5 rebounds and assists. I do like him for a double-double on a little sprinkle with 0.3 units as well. That's the things that I was looking at in this game. What really pushed me over the edge with loving this stuff with Cade was that Ausar Thompson is not in. Dude gets more rebounds and assists without Ausar Thompson on the floor and should be getting dimes with other people who are on the floor for them. So that's my favorite bet in this one. But if you want to talk about how we might play the let's go back. If you want to talk about how we might play beef stew, I'll talk about that real quick. Detroit, I don't know if I'm be able to get to a spot of feeling good about it. 8.5 is a good amount of assists, man. I know Detroit gives up a ton of them, but I need to look at Isaiah real quick. And we're talking about his points. I forgot that real quick. Damn, I got all excited with the Jimmy news. PRA for him. Whoo, boy. Not much to like there. I know you're talking about the minutes. Your reasoning there was he got 20 minutes last time. We're just looking at that, right? So head-to-head stuff. The minutes haven't been there for him against Toronto, but like Toronto is not the same team. What's been his minutes as of late? Has he been getting those minutes? I know he came back from injury right around, the All-Star break and hasn't been getting to this number. I know how bad this Toronto defense is, but yeah, I mean, Beastu's been getting the minutes. That's definitely the thing for him. I'd have to look at a few more things to feel comfortable with that. Let's real quick just look at player tracking for him. Look at some passing numbers. There's no way that our boy has a good amount. Let's do last 10. I just cannot imagine he's heavily involved in the passing game, although he doesn't really like to go down low on offense, so he might actually be passing around the perimeter. But yeah, I mean, there's not much there for him in the way of assists. That's going to be a low prop. So I don't know what to do with that. What's that, 1.5 or something? Yeah, 1.5 for him. Hasn't even gotten 2 assists or 1 even in the last 3. For the rebound, 7.5. You got to wonder about that with him because, like I said, sometimes he's allergic to the paint for some reason, which is really annoying because his name is Beef Stew. So it's like, dog, you look like a linebacker. Why are you not going down low? Pretty frustrating if you're a fan of his. If you're a fan of the Detroit Pistons, shout out my Pistons fans. Rebounding in the last 10. Jalen Duren's going to be taking a lot of those boards. Oster is out, so that is something. But also Simone Fontecchio has been taking a lot of stuff from him. 10.7 rebound chances, 7.3 rebounds. That's a very high rebound chance percentage. So if anything, I don't like it, right? Because you think that that's going to go down with that can't be sustained essentially, right? That's 6 games that he's played over the last 10 too, by the way. We should be very clear. It's even smaller sample size than we said originally. If you want to look at his rebound percentage on the season, yeah, it's a lot closer to 60%, which is still really good, but 68% is mad high. It's not something you're going to see when volume comes into play. 7 boards per game on the season. So, I mean, with and without, I bet you he's got pretty good numbers with and without Oster. That would make sense. They play in similar places at times. So let's real quick look at Oster. Isaiah, I should be able to just write Beef Stew. Isaiah, I think that's right. Stewart. Hell yeah. Isaiah Stewart with and without Osar. Real quick, I don't know if you guys saw this draft class coming in for the NBA is so duty that most of these draft experts are using Ausar Thompson as their like measuring stick and being like, yo, Ausar Thompson would be the first pick in this year's draft with how bad the guys are coming out of college. He played 1 game without Ausar and it looks like he did nothing. He got 6 boards. 12 points. So there's not much to look at there. Yeah, not much to compare it to with or without Ausar Thompson, who I believe might still actually play in this game. So we can't just necessarily rule him out unless he has been ruled out. Because he's still got props up, so he might actually play in this one. The rebound chances, I got to say no, to be honest with you. In this one, I get that how bad the Raptors are at rebounding, but if you look at the way that he's been rebounding, let's go back to like the last. Has he played in the last 6 games? He played 5 of them, which is most of it. And even in that time frame, because James Wiseman is out there as well, 10.6 with 7 boards. It's a bit high for me, bro. Like I understand it could be in fact because other people are boxing people out and he's the one getting the boards. Quentin Grimes has a ton of rebound chances. What's he at? 2.5. I don't know. That might be the play. Look at the rebound chances for Quentin Grimes. 9 rebound chances, 4 boards. It's pretty close to where I would bet this. The minus 135 does not make me feel very good at all. I hate it. But in the last 5, he's been boarding up. Didn't get it against Cleveland. What's it like for him against in terms of this matchup, real quick? Because he's a shifty little dude who can sky, by the way, athletic as hell. And I didn't mean to say little. He's not. He's like 6'5", but rebounds for his type of rebounder against Toronto. Also, we got to use this for Toronto as of late, and I don't really know what position you'd call him. This isn't going to help us out there. I guess you'd call him a shooting guard. Rebounds for shooting guards, even not a stat that I like to bank on. I mean, Toronto's not even giving up that many, but that's where I would lean with you. If he's going to get 9 rebound chances, I think he can pull down 3 boards. 33% is a really low percentage. Quentin Grimes is at a 44.4% rebound chance percentage. So it's right at about where we need him to be to get the 3 boards here. I would consider Quentin Grimes, honestly. I'm off beef stew though, just to make my final point for you, bro. Yeah, they're also iffy. If Osterman's in, yeah, it's not quite as much. The only other thing I know I'm forgetting right now is to talk about Jeremy Grant. So I'll just do that real quick for y'all before I dip, and then give you guys all your time back too. What team does that dude play for? Just kidding. Atlanta, Portland, Jay Grant. We're looking at points, right? For Jay. Why is he allergic to rebounds? Go into the paint, Jeremy Grant. Like, does not even care about rebounds. Dude goes to other places to get contracts and then fill his stats up to get more contracts and go play for crap teams and then doesn't get like, there's no hustle. It's mad frustrating, dude. Really, really frustrating because I'm gonna get off of it, but just like as someone who loves basketball and who wishes they were 6'9", like make me 6'9". I'll go stand in the freaking paint. This is ridiculous. Jeremy Grant for the points. You asked me about points. You didn't ask me about that. Oh yeah, Brian Andrews, another great point, bro. You're on fire today. I think you might be commenter of the day, second ever commenter of the day on the LYB live stream after Crack Sparrow took the opening title yesterday. That's a great point. I love Fontecchio right now. Fontecchio has been so solid for this team. It has such a higher usage rate and volume of minutes and everything for them. Simone, don't let me call him Simon. Simone has been awesome for that squad, and I would support props over for him probably in most scenarios. 18.5 points for Jay Grant. This is another situation where we're talking about Jalen Johnson being out, and that's what we start with here, right? So with Jalen Johnson now, looking at these numbers as of late, how many games? See, like the other thing about Jeremy Grant is there's just going to be random spurts of missed games, like right here between Memphis and Oklahoma City, like right here between Oklahoma City and Boston. He missed a couple. Like, dude, he doesn't play and then he doesn't try when he's in. Can I stop talking about Jeremy Grant? My bad. I would not take an over for Jeremy Grant. I cannot trust him. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. I mean, I guess if he's in there, he should be good for 32 at least. Like, you got to put him at around 34 when he plays. That seems like a reasonable average that he's played over his last 10. That dates all the way back to February 2nd, right? He's only played 10 games since then for a good reason. Like, they're also tanking 14 field goal attempts per game, right? Now he's hitting 5 of them. It's just not enough for me, dude, right? He doesn't get to the free throw line because he's not aggressive. 4.6. You'd love that to be at 7 for your allegedly for his thing. But yeah, that's why I like his points. Dude only cares about shooting. It's so true. Yeah, he needs some goggles like his uncle Horace. Another great shout out. Who's Anton, Mark? Let me know what you mean by that. Diego, I can't keep looking at Jeremy Grant. I'm just getting angrier and angrier talking about this. So I think I'm off of it. Sorry not to be more helpful than that. Do you mean Ayton points, Nevin? I think that's probably what you mean real quick. So we're talking about DeAndre Ayton. Wow, he's been scoring too. That's a good look. Scoring against Atlanta without a center. What a concept. That makes a lot of sense, right? We got Atlanta playing without without any, well, they got Clint Capella in there, right? That's who's going to be going up against Ayton. I love Capella because of how soft Ayton is, to be honest, for the points. 11.5 is a lot for Capella, but he might be involved a lot more. My bad, Dio. It's all fun and love, but I can't really ever subscribe to a or prescribe, however you want to say it, to a Jeremy Grant over, to be honest. That's a dude that's just going to make me really mad with his inconsistency. And then when he goes off, it's like, well, if I bet Jeremy Grant to score 20, I might as well bang on him scoring 30 because of how he plays, right? Like, how many, does he have any 30-point games in here? No, but you could still get him at these alt odds of like 24, 25. Like, he's going to take so many shots when he does score that many. Like, how many shots did it take him to get 24, 25, 20, and 24? Let's see. Field goal attempts. Look at that. 21 field goal attempts. 21 to get 24. I hate inefficiency. 18, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. All right. We're good. I'm good on that. Let me finish it up with DeAndre Ayton and Simone Fontecchio. I keep saying that, but I'm having a good time with y'all. So DeAndre Ayton's a good starting point there, and they are playing this Atlanta team that I imagine is not great at defending pretty much anything. So I don't know why they'd be good at defending DeAndre Ayton's player profile type. Points for Big DA, fourth most to his type of scorer. They are not giving up quite as many points down low. I'm going to guess that they haven't been that bad. Let's see. Last 10 games by zone, opponent shooting. That's what we got here on NBA.com. And I am going to look at Simone because I love that man. In terms of the restricted area, look at that for the Hawks. 30.3 attempts against them with the basically like 6th, 7th most makes, allowing the not a bad defensive field goal percentage. Outside the top 10 or bottom 10, I should say. Wait, really? They're in the top 10? Look at Atlanta defending down low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Although Jalen Johnson played in some of those games, we got to make this 5 games. I think he's missed about that at this point. And 5 games since then, still not bad. Still in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in terms of limiting field goal percentage to their opponent inside the restricted area. What about in the non-RA? Because we know that DeAndre Soft Ayton loves to shoot those mid-range jumpers. The in the paint non-RA field goal attempts against. Did I see them there? No. Field goal percentage. All right, not loving it honestly for DA quite as much. Let's see how he's done against Clint Capella. Another great use of this here is that StatMuse for CC. So we're what am I talking about here? We're talking about DeAndre Ayton versus Clint Capella last 5 games. Like, we got to assume these dudes are guarding each other when they're on the floor. I can look it up more clearly, but we got to feel good about that. Hasn't played them on the Portland Trailblazers, which makes sense. Did score a lot when he was on the Suns against this team too. So I don't hate it. If he got the 30 and 27 minutes there, how many minutes has he been getting to get these points? A lot of minutes. How many field goal attempts has he been taking? 14 and a half to get, what do we say? 17 and a half points. Not a bad number. I probably have him at about 17 points in terms of what's this? I mean, pretty good field goal percentage. That could only get better, to be honest. I mean, over his last 5, it's probably more indicative of what he's done on the season. What is he on the season in terms of field goal attempts? Well, this is 2023. So let's do like last 20 games real quick. I mean, he's been on one for sure. In the last 15, 12 of 15 overs of this number. I like it. Yeah, I like it, dude. It's good stuff. Peace out, Crack Sparrow. But yeah, I like it. In terms of the DeAndre Ayton over here, I dig it. I feel that, and I'm with it. Last thing I'm looking at, I swear on everything, is the Simone Fontecchio. And I'll run through those bets for you guys real quick so we know what we're talking about. What do we want to know, Simone? We want to know about the points, maybe. Let's put him in here real quick and see about his player type against these Toronto Raptors, who are just a pile right now. Scoring against the Raptors, 5th most that they're giving up. Shooting, this is where it gets frustrating, is like the shooting and the scoring differentiation. I need to get much stronger understanding of that. I still understand the concept of it, but it's like, why is there such a big difference between where he's scoring from on the floor and where he's shooting from on the floor? Shouldn't they be the same? So I got to look into that a little bit more closely before I feel comfortable talking about it. And I'm not going to worry about that as much. For Simone, though, 14.5 points. He's now played a few games with Detroit, right? Let me just look at how many exactly so I can get y'all out of here. Simone Fontecchio. Did I spell that right? Probably close enough. Game log with Pistons. Good amount. Okay, he's played since the 10th, right? Trade deadline. Makes sense. And what we're talking about here for points, 14.5, right? Gone over pretty consistently once he got the minutes. He was getting 30. So, let's do it this way. One of the nice things here is let's see how many times he's got 14.5 points when he's played at least 30 minutes, right? So we can take this. Nope, I took the wrong one. Not less than, more than. So when he plays at least 30, how do these numbers look? 30 minutes, and he's hit this number. Okay, good. Yeah, got it up here too. Okay. So we're still looking at about half of it, but obviously he's gotten more comfortable. Let's look at field goal attempts and how much they've been relying on him. We've also got him without Oscar Thompson in. That's pretty helpful. Let's at least take Oscar out. Well, Oscar might play, but let's take him out. Doesn't really matter. I'm not sure who would be taking the shots away from him. I have to look more deeply into Fontecchio, to be honest with you. But yeah, I always think he's a good bet right now, to be honest with you. The field goal attempts as of late. Yeah, I think the thing is, I think that 11 field goal attempts is about what you put him at. He has been shooting 47%. Let's do this over the last 5 for a minute. I mean, look, in the last 5, he's been dominating, and that's against some decent defenses. Really good for Orlando, obviously. Knicks went under, Orlando over again. Seems to love playing those Magic. And then against Dallas, tore him up. I'd say he's a pretty reliable small forward, if you will. So yeah, I mean, Toronto's giving up a ton of points there. I think that's probably a good bet, bro. I have to project that number a little bit more deeply, but if you want to take Simone, I'm with that. A quick reminder and run through. I am gonna hit the bets that I haven't told you that weren't in the beginning, and I'll put those up, and then we're gonna dip out of here. But for the 4 that I'm playing early, let me bring this all up for you real quick. For the 4 that I'm playing early, we've got Klay under, definitely my top bet here, under 20.5 points. And then we've got, I'm just going to run through them quickly. We got Joker over on his points, 24.5. And I'll also hit a little baby ladder there, 30 plus points. In fact, you know what? Because I want to real quick, where am I at with Mr. Klay Thompson and his alt unders? What if we ladder down? Does anybody hate that? I mean, I don't. Playing Klay under here. Can I go over under alt? Hell yeah. I could take Klay. No, I can't. I can only do alt overs, which is mad. Oh no, wait. Klay Thompson, but you can only go alt upwards. All right, that's stupid. What I was trying to see if I could do here was look at Klay and his, let me see if I can make this a little bigger for you, and see his all under. So when I went to DraftKings and I went to points for these players, you can see player points go all the way down. You can actually play alt over and under points. So the thing is, I can't go lower for more juice. What I was hoping is I could get under 18 points, 18.5 points for Klay for better juice. I would take that as well, because I feel really good about that bet here. But closing it out for real, looking at Klay one more time. That bet, Joker bet with the ladder. Domas over turnovers, if you can get that one. Cade, we're going over on his rebounds and assists, and a double-double sprinkle as well, plus 210 for 0.3 units there. And then the other bets that I didn't get up for you, we're going to go with LeBron over on the points. I like that. Crack Sparrows on the points and the assists. I dig that. And then the other one was DeMar, if you like that, to go over. I don't think there was any other ones that I took, but I'm going to throw the final plays that I actually make once I can get off of here and place my own money down as well. If you are in here right now, subscribe to the page. Coming back tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm trying to get these plays up a little bit earlier for you, but I also want to add some each time we do this live stream and take your questions. That's the whole point of this. Appreciate you guys jumping in. Brian Andrews gets the commenter of the day. He came in quick with those injury reports, which is not easy to do. Maybe you should start a service, bro, where you actually tell us who's going to play and who's not, because it is goddamn impossible to figure out. Kobe White, bro, you're on fire today. That was another play I was looking at, was Kobe White under assists. My other guy, I believe Free Sauce or somebody, my bad. You had SNG Clue. I'll come back to that. But we had, Kobe White under assists is a good bet. The other one was Paolo under 5.5 assists, maybe. But the Kobe White bet under on assists I like, because that is a dude who still has the same prop for assists. The line is at the same number for like he and DeMar and Ayo Dosunmu. And Dosunmu and DeMar both have more potential assists per game than Kobe in this current iteration of the team. So that's another great look for sure, is that Kobe White under. And then the DeMar over on the points is a good bet. It's kind of high for him, but it's a great matchup against a team that does not play well in the mid range or against anything that he wants to do. So appreciate y'all. Like I said, do subscribe to the page. Very helpful. If you can, jump in the comments. Also super helpful. Like all those things. I am laughing at the comment that was made in here by SNG Clue saying your Madrid bias makes us place losing bets at the money line and over against Atletico. That's fine. I'm not the one with the Real Madrid bias. That's my homie there, Burr Oaks, who's putting these UEFA Champions League videos up on the channel as well. So if you want some of those, dig in and enjoy. Come back tomorrow. I will be here 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Gonna be doing this every day. Gonna have projections tonight for tomorrow. So until I see you then, happy betting.